Hello everyone. Hi, how's everyone doing today? A little bit of delay on the video there, but hi, good to see you. Greetings, welcome, salutations. How's it going? Anyone here? Thank you. Welcome from GMAT Club. Good to see you today. Hi, Arca. Good morning, Manisha. Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names. I'm doing my best. Great, I'm glad. I always want to be sure that you guys can see me, hear me, etc. Hi, Sneha, Bora, Alex. Oh, wow. Okay, great. Hi from Ecuador. Hi from Washington, D.C. Raja from NYC. Hi, Raja from NYC. Nice to see you. Great. Thank you all so much for being here with me today for the latest GMAT Club and Veritas Prep presentation. Today's topic is going to be intersection of meaning and grammar. And I'm not going to make the same mistake I made the last time I did a presentation. Hi, Sharaful. I remember you from my previous sessions. Hi, Megashri. In my last presentation, I simply completely forgot to introduce myself. So I'm not going to do that again. Let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Anthony Ritz, and I am an instructor for Veritas Prep. I have been with Veritas Prep for about 10 years now, and I have been a private tutor for 18 or so years, full-time for 10 or so years. Let's see, did my undergrad at Georgia Tech. I was a math and physics double major. Law school at Georgetown, so I didn't go to business school. I'm not the right person for those questions, but I have, of course, taken the GMAT. And on the GMAT, I scored a 790. I scored a 790 with a 51 on quant and a 51 on verbal, which is the maximum scores on both sides of the test. I also got a 6 on the analytical rating assessment, which is also the perfect score there. And though I took it before integrated reasoning was an official section, I have taken a number of unofficial integrated reasoning sections under testing conditions, and I generally score 8s, which is the perfect score there as well. So I've been tutoring a long time. I've helped people get into just about any top business school you can think of, Harvard, Wharton, down the list. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys today and sharing some of my understanding of this test and hopefully help you guys out. So that's me. Please let me know if you have any questions about me. Ooh, a fellow lawyer taking the GMAT. That's great, Sneha. That's awesome. Yeah, where'd you go to law school? Haven't I taken the online exam? No, actually, one of the other Veritas instructors, Haley, took the online exam, and she did a very nice presentation about that, actually, that I believe is saved in the GMAT Club archives. So you'll definitely want to check out Haley's presentation where she discusses that. Jodhpur in India. Okay, cool. Very cool. But yeah, you'll definitely want to check out Haley's talk about the online GMAT. She has a lot of great thoughts. I have some thoughts, but they're all secondhand, so I'm going to let her speak on that issue because she is first-hand experience. Exactly, right. Haley is great, and she had a very, very good talk on that, so definitely check that out. Ooh, also from Jodhpur. Okay, so you guys are neighbors. Cool, good for you. Awesome. Okay, so a couple of other business things before we get started. I hope you're going to like the talk that I'm going to do over the next hour or so. If you do, I hope you will actually click the little thumbs up button and give it a like. And in fact, I hope you will also click subscribe, because if you click subscribe, then you'll get lovely notifications when we do another one of these live talks, when I come back, things like that, when other great instructors come in here and give you free tutoring. And of course, you know, we have a bunch of videos in the archives. This is my 4th presentation for GMAT Club, so you can check out my prior ones. But definitely hit like, hit subscribe, Share your thoughts in the comments, all of that stuff. And if you like what we do over here at Veritas, check us out. I run online classes on a regular basis, including advanced classes specifically aimed at high level. We have a whole bunch of great online resources, practice tests, question banks, tutoring, all kinds of options. So definitely check us out at Veritas Prep if you like what we're doing here today. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's get into it a little bit and let's talk about the intersection of meaning and grammar. This is my first verbal presentation, and my understanding is I'm jumping into the lion's den a little bit with you guys, but we'll see how it goes. Because here's my thing about it. I find that a lot of students get hyper-focused on certain grammatical issues, certain constructions, some of which are valid, some of which may not be, but in doing so, sometimes they lose sight of the bigger picture. And in losing the forest for the trees, as you might say, they fail to think about meaning. Now, on a somewhat higher level, you do get some students who think a little bit about meaning, and that's good. But, at the highest level, either of those things alone is not enough. And what we really have to be able to do is we have to be able to integrate those two things. We have to combine ideas of meaning and grammar simultaneously and see how they interact with one another. It's not enough to think about what you're trying to say in a vacuum. It's not enough to think about the grammar in a vacuum. You have to put those two things together and get a construction that harmonizes with the thing that you're trying to say. All right? So we're going to do several problems today. I've got 8 in the slides. I don't know if we'll get to all 8, but we're going to darn well try. All of which I have vetted and confirmed are at the 700 level on GMAT Club. And I've actually provided either Veritas internal stats or GMAT Club stats on every problem, so you can see just how brutal these really are. But for each of these problems, you can get a very long ways by thinking the right way about the problem. And, that's what we're going to talk about. So to start motivating the discussion today, I want to throw you in with a problem and just kind of see how you do with it. And then we'll have a conversation about what we saw, we'll learn from it, and we'll go through several in that way throughout the day. Okay? So let's jump in pretty quick with this problem. It's a personal favorite of mine and very challenging. And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to open a poll, this poll, okay? Now, I'm going to go off this page for a minute so you can see the question. But this poll is at that address, pollev.com, Anthony Ritz 937. Okay? That address right there. GMAT Club will also be posting that into the chat, I'm told, so you can see it. When you get this question, I'm going to walk off screen for about 2 minutes. I want you to go to that link, this link right here, and post the results, post your answer in the poll. Please do not shout out anything in the chat, okay? No answers in the chat. Put them in the poll, okay? Now, I'm going to walk off, give you 2 minutes to try this. Answer in the poll, okay? And I will see you again soon. Thanks very much. All right, we have hit and passed the 2-minute mark on my little timer here. And I'm going to check the poll and see how we doing. I don't have that many answers. Where are they? Let's get some answers in. Answers in, people, come on. Take your best shot. Looks like I got about 10 of you so far. Anyone else? Anyone else? I am closing this poll now. Okay? So. All right. So I just locked the poll, and let's see your results. Haha. There are your results. Okay, that is how you guys answered in this poll. That's a very interesting set of results, actually. I'll show you why in just a minute. So let's look at the question again. So people look at this question and they say, I know what this is about. This is a question about parallelism, right? I got a list. Everyone knows lists are supposed to be parallel. All the things in the list should use the same form and have the same parts of speech and blah, 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 right? Right? So a lot of you guys picked B. And B is the answer that takes everything and makes it all parallel, right? Operating rooms, an ophthalmology department, a pox area, the largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals, it's all parallel. Great. Let's look at that actually. Here, I've highlighted it for you. I've color-coded for you so you can see very clearly which items are parallel to what. You know, this part starts with a 2, and so does that part, so does this part, so does that part, this part, that part, etc. On the other hand, the blue parts don't have the 2. Here, 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 all of those, this one, those ones, etc. Yeah, no problem. I did close the poll, Manisha. Unfortunately, you weren't quick enough. You got 2 minutes here. You got to get the answers in. I warned you guys I was closing it. Unfortunately, some people were too slow. Sorry about that. We'll get you the next one, though, okay? So hang in there. So we're looking at this, and we're going, okay, well, B clearly is the only one other than E that's blue all the way through. So, you know, which is it, B or E? Okay, well, I have a question. Here's a question. Why does the Falcon Hospital contain and treat falcons in the largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals? Excuse me? So wait a minute, let's look at this again. Riyadh, where the Saudi capital where people revere birds of prey and ride camels regularly, is home to the largest hospital for falcons, a place where falcons are treated in. And then we get this list here, this blue list. The falcons from all over the world are treated in operating rooms. Sure, I buy it. An ophthalmology department? I guess so. I don't see why not. A pox area? I don't even know what that is. I guess they treat falcons there. Whatever, man. Okay. And the largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals. Wait, why is this in the Falcon Hospital? Why is the veterinary clinic for desert mammals in the Falcon Hospital? Why are we treating falcons there? Huh? What do you say about that, bee people? And for that matter, E people, same story. And I'm guessing that the answer is, why does it treat them in this clinic? It doesn't. That's not supposed to be parallel, right? So if you're sitting there going, make everything parallel, that's great, grammar, ooh, I love parallel structures, but to what end? The question that you need to be asking is not, is it parallel? It's, which parallel? It's parallel with what? It's which things are actually meant to be in the Falcon Hospital and which things aren't. Okay? What's supposed to be in the Falcon Hospital? Well, operating rooms, sure. An ophthalmology department, sure. A pox area, why not? The largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals? No, that's not in the Falcon Hospital. That's parallel. It's supposed to go along with it. The thing is that there are two things in Rydya. Rydya is home to the largest hospital for falcons. Why is my pen not working? There we go. Just needed to mess with the settings. That's a little thick. Let's do that. Okay, so it's home to the largest hospital for falcons, right? And, oh great, now I've got a little red dot on my page I can't remove. That's unfortunate. And to the largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals. So in fact, hi Kana, good to see you here. Hey look man, Arun, I don't know what a pox area is either. But does it matter? Does it matter what a pox area is? Isn't it enough to say that this should not be in the list, these things should be, right? I mean, I don't really have an option that would just separate out a pox area, because the only one that tries to gets a just nonsense list. They're treated in operating rooms, an ophthalmology department. That list doesn't even finish. I just stopped in the middle, like I just stopped talking in the middle of my list, right? So Arun, I would worry less about what a pox area is. I still don't know what a pox area is, but I would just focus on getting the list parallel. And here's the internal Veritas stats for this question. And yes, the right answer is A. I know you are all Akshay patients. I'm getting there, I know. Tarun, Akshay, everyone's like, oh my God, is it right, is it right? Okay. Yes, A is correct here. But I want to point out how similar these stats look to yours. And I think the reason is because people are doing the same thing kind of all over the world, and everyone who sees this question, which is they're so focused on paralleling up all those items, the most picked two wrong answers, including the most picked answer overall, are the ones that put everything in one giant list. And again, if you're doing that, then you are missing the meaning issue of this question. Only A is actually logical. What do you guys think about that? And again, I say this still having no idea what a pox area is, Arun. I just could not even tell you. What do you guys think? Oh, no. That's not the lesson to take from here, Nagarajan. We're not sitting here trying to be like, oh, Anthony's so great. I want you guys to be that great. I want you guys to be able to say, you know, Nagarajan is always right. Why does accuracy matter so much while you study MBA or in industries? That's a great question to ask your boss next time you're doing a project, you know? Oh, man, why does accuracy matter, man? It doesn't really. I mean, I wasn't accurate, but who cares? You know? What I submitted to you was totally illogical, but so what? That's not important. Can we see the text again? Yeah, it's kind of small here. One more time. Here was the original text of this question. And again, it's A. So other question. They're same things, meaning and logic. Right, meaning and logic. Now, you could say meaning first, then think about parallelism. That's true. I often kind of move back and forth between them. I think that it's important to integrate those, to do them together, because sometimes the meaning won't be entirely clear until you see the grammar. We'll see some examples of that later. As for E, if you look at what it's lining up, again, operating rooms, an ophthalmology department in a pox area, and the largest veterinary clinic for desert mammals. All of those things still appear to be in the Falcon Hospital because I still don't have the 2 on this element here that would instead make it go together with to the largest hospital for falcons. So yeah, that's still a problem for me. I don't think E is that different from B. You chose A because you found the 2 lists. Good, as well you should. Accuracy and verbal. Well, Akshay, because accuracy in verbal is a proxy for accuracy in anything. You know, ultimately this test is about logic, and you know, the verbal questions are just a medium in which we can craft critical reasoning, logical thinking questions. So, you know, it doesn't really matter whether it's accuracy in verbal, whether it's accuracy in sentence correction, critical reasoning, whether it's accuracy on a math problem. I think that the people who write this test ultimately would say it's all kind of the same thing. There's a certain kind of thinking that we care about and that we're testing. And, you know, if you can demonstrate that, you can demonstrate it across all these different areas. And that is something that is going to be very important to us in terms of your future as a business person. Can I tell how do we follow parallelism in markers such as and or any open-ended markers? Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of good questions here. So let me take the second question first. Do I suggest doing the checks one after the other? Sure, but be aware that you can go back and forth. You know, it's not just, I'm going to do meaning, and I'm going to switch to grammar and no longer adjust my understanding of meaning. It's, I'm going to do meaning, I'm going to do grammar, wait, there's something in the grammar that makes me think maybe the meaning could be something different. I need to think about the meaning again. Okay, now I've got some new insight on the grammar, let me go back to grammar. And you kind of, you know, you need to be able to shift fluidly between them. So you say do one at a time, but I do think you need, as you practice this, to get better at going back and forth, and you'll see more about that later on today. Now, as for parallelism, as for the and, generally speaking, when you have an and, go right after it, look at the next word. Here the word is to. That's a preposition. And then read backwards until you see another word of the same type, of the same part of speech, and that's your parallel element, right? So if I'm reading backwards from the to, I end up noticing this to right here, and that looks like that's kind of it for me, you know? Because it can't fit here, treated to the largest veterinary clinic, that doesn't make any sense. So from all to the world, no. You know, Falcons to the largest, no. So to is home to this and to that. So if I'm reading backwards, the first thing I come to that makes any sense for this to parallel is that other to there. Whereas if I'm reading backwards from here, the largest veterinary clinic is just a noun. And I get about this far and I go, okay, that's where I line up. That's where my parallel element is. So the thing about English is that when you use a compound structure with an and or but, just a conjunction, the first elements don't have any indicators. The first one doesn't tell you where it starts, but the last one does. The second one, if it's a list of three, does. So I wouldn't focus so much on the first one, I'd focus on the others, and I would then read backwards to find the first one based on matching them. What is the average time? This should be about 2-minute question. Let's see. So getting stuck between two options, again, what you want to do is you want to look for a real meaningful difference here. You want to look for a systematic difference and use that to get the answer. Please understand that this is never going to be a case of a good answer and a better answer. This is never shades of gray. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, think too much about this as shades of gray, and they're trying to choose the best answer when they get down to two, and that's the wrong way. You're still trying to find why one of those two is broken, and I assure you one of them is. Now, again, Bob or Mizzo, I do not think that you need to know what a pox area is. I don't think you care. Because what I care about is that this 2 has to be here for this clinic to parallel the Falcon Hospital. And once I've got that, I've only got a couple of other answers here. This sentence doesn't even finish its list. Treated in operating rooms, an ophthalmology department, list never finishes. That's just a basically construction error, right? So, I mean, that just does not make any sense. And this one makes this another thing that Ridya is home to. It's no surprise that Ridya, where people love falcons, is home to an ophthalmology department. Why would that be unsurprising? That doesn't make any sense. You know, no, the ophthalmology department's not this separate freestanding thing that we're not surprised they have, since they love falcons, and everyone knows that people who love falcons need an ophthalmology department. No, it's a part of the Falcon Hospital. And so again, I've never mentioned pox area in this analysis, but I don't care. I do not care what a pox area is. The best thing you can do is avoid it. Okay, you guys are making a lot of comments. Let me scroll up for just a minute. I got to step off to see what some of people are saying here. What's with the last part, the veterinary part? Well, the veterinary clinic is the place where they treat the camels. Yeah, C had to have an extra and. Again, the official answer, for those of you who came in late, is A. This is A. Ideally, the maximum time for sentence correction, maximum is 3 minutes. But obviously, that is a maximum. You need to average closer to about 1.5 minutes, minute 45 seconds, something like that. Noun, phrase, noun, probably fine, Kunal. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I would need to see specific context. Does it sound? No, I don't want to talk about how it sounds. This is a 700 level question. They all are. Okay, I want to get to some more questions here. So let's do another, but yeah, it's not enough to say make it parallel. Parallel to what? And in fact, if you don't want things to go together logically, you probably want to make sure they're not parallel, because otherwise you're really misleading me, okay? So let's see another question here. This one sparked a lot of discussion in the GMAT Club forums. I think it's a great question. We'll see what you guys think. You have 2 minutes, and I'm going to clear and reopen the poll. Poll is clear, poll is reopened, and I am walking off for 2 minutes. Good luck. I'm sorry, fam, I didn't have that unlocked properly. It should be good to go now. Please answer in the poll. Okay, you guys have had more than 2 minutes here, so let's see what we've got in the poll. Okay, so here are the responses we've got so far. I'll just leave it unlocked, but there's the results. That way I won't have to worry about messing up the locking again. Yeah, pretty rough. So, what's going on in this question? Well, let's take a look one more time at the question itself. Sorry, hang on, I just got an email from the polls site. Oh, that's interesting. My poll is limited to 25 responses. Well, that's great, guys. I appreciate so much participation. I guess from now on, you will have to be one of the first 25 people to vote in the poll. If you're not one of the first 25 people, you may find that it is locked simply because you weren't fast enough. I didn't know my poll had a limit. This is the first time I've come close to hitting it. So, hey, good on you. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. Okay, so we had lots of C's. We had lots of E's, some B's, some D's, some A's. We had everything. Oh my gosh. So, let's start by talking about, it may be full, Manisha. We have a limit here, apparently, of 25. So, if you weren't one of the first 25, that would be why. Because simply you have been beaten to the punch, all right? You got to get in there faster. Okay, so let's see what we're talking about here. We have feral swine. Do you guys know what a swine is, by the way? Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like the hat, Samarth. It turns out not to actually matter. I spent a lot of time with this because people were talking about the forums about, I don't know what a swine is, so this question's not fair. And I picked yeah, it's a pig. Exactly, it's a kind of a pig. But I spent a lot of time with this question really debating, does it matter? Do you need to know what a swine is? I think the answer is no. Do you know what a carp is? It's a fish. Now, I spent a lot of time debating this, but I'm certain you don't need to know what a carp is. And frankly, I don't think you need to know either of these things. All right? But one thing that's worth noting here is carp are not swine. Right? Carp are not swine. Carp are not a type of swine. You can't say feral swine are unwelcome, such as the Asian carp, because that's ridiculous. It suggests the Asian carp is a type of pig. Okay? And to make matters worse, you tell me that the Asian carp, we just talked about how to do parallelism. You see this but here? You see this that here? Let's roll back and see where we hit another pronoun to go with that. Ooh, I found one. Look at that. Right there. Okay? That are threatening to invade, but that are far larger, more vicious, and mounted on 4 legs. Okay? So wait, what did A just tell me? It told me that carp are a type of pig, but also, unlike pigs, carp are bigger, angrier, and 4-legged. And as I say on a later slide, I don't ever want to jump in Lake Michigan and be confronted by a giant, angry, 4-legged fish and a legless pig. Apparently. Okay, because unlike the pigs, the carp have 4 legs. Now, let's say you didn't know what either of those things were. How could you be an example of something, but larger than that thing? Right? How could I be an example of a feral swine, even if I don't know what a feral swine is? Carp, feral swine such as Asian carp. I'm an example of a swine. I don't know what a carp is, I don't know what a swine is, okay, but I'm larger than a swine. But I'm more vicious than a swine. It's self-contradictory. Even if you have no idea what these things are, it's self-contradictory. There is no way that this sentence can work, and that applies to A, as well as E, as well as if you're reading closely C, because C says, but are far larger. Wait a minute, but are far larger? Let me scroll back from the R. Are threatening. So wait a minute, the Asian carp are threatening to invade Lake Michigan, but are far larger, more vicious, and are mounted on 4 legs. So again, you're telling me the carp are mounted on 4 legs, the pigs are not. If you know anything about pigs, I really hope that you recognize that's illogical, right? Four-legged fish and legless pigs. There you go, people. Do you agree that C also makes no sense here? Because you are paralleling this description under the carp. It therefore describes the carp. But obviously that's not a good idea. Do you agree that's a problem? Good, I'm glad it's fun. I love this stuff. I want it to be fun. I hope you enjoy all of these sessions, okay? At which point I come down to B and D. Now B has two problems. One is have threatened an invasion. Did they send a list of demands? You know? What do you mean? I don't get it. Like, we're going to invade your lake unless you give us what we want. I'm not really sure what's going on with these fish, but it's weird that they've threatened an invasion. They're threatening to invade, but it's not quite the same thing to say they've threatened an invasion. Also, if you put the dash here, and this is a recent change that we've made, just to make this even clearer. I'm glad you like it, Ira. I do my best. But if you put the dash here, then since this modifier started with a dash, it ends with a dash. Why does that matter? Because when it ends with a dash, this but is outside the modifier. This but is going to go back. And then I'm going to parallel unwelcome. That's an adjective that describes the swine, but that means larger, more vicious. That's also an adjective that describes the swine. You say, great, that's what I wanted, right? That's what I wanted. Here's the problem. Wait, hang on. Ankit Gupta, even if you thought carp was a type of pig, did you think that there are legless pigs? Feral swine are legless? If you think carp's a type of pig, how could you say the pigs are like the carp, but the carp are mounted on four legs? Unlike the pigs, the carp have four legs. Let's say you don't know what carp is. You know what a pig is, right? How many legs does a pig usually have? I don't know what the pigs look like where you are, but my pigs have four legs. So that's still illogical. If you just know what a swine is, you can't pick C. Okay, so as I was saying, on B, this larger parallels unwelcome. You say, great, that's what I wanted. Apparently not 4, right, Gaurav? That's what I wanted. But wait, there's generally agreement that feral swine are. Let's see what we generally agree. We generally agree that feral swine are unwelcome. We also generally agree that they're mounted on 4 legs. Well, I'm glad we generally agree about that, but that's a little ridiculous. I'm not trying to tell you that there's generally agreement that feral swine are mounted on 4 legs. I would hope that agreement would be universal. I'm learning today that maybe it's not. Maybe some people don't think pigs have 4 legs, but if you do, then I hope you recognize that this is not very logical. Now, if you did this with but far larger, larger will parallel like, and that is correct. There's an agreement that the swine are unwelcome, and then I describe the swine. They are like the carp, but larger. And that is correct. No, that after the lake does not describe the lake. The reason being, we have a parallel structure. We have a compound. And the compound controls here. When I use the but, that is going to scroll back and find another relative pronoun. It is. It is not going to modify anything until it figures out what it parallels. And then it's going to modify the same as whatever it parallels. That modifies carp, so that modifies carp too. Okay? Absolutely 100%. Pigs and carps are having a field day in this conversation. Yes, but they can't figure out how they're doing in the field day because they can't tell which of them has legs. Okay? Ultimately, D is the correct answer. All right? And again, you had to think about the meaning here. So I know that some people were talking about like versus such as. I don't know about the like, man. We'll look at that later. But the such as, it certainly has to be stuff that are in the category. And given that, you've only got really one option here. It is D. Okay, let's continue. I had 8. I'm not going to get to 8 at this point. You guys have lots of great questions. I'm happy to answer them. It just means that we're going to only get to 4 or 5 of these. So I got to start deciding which of these I want. Here's the overall results from GMAT Club on this question, and you can see that you're not alone in finding this brutal. So in this, we have this dash and this dash setting off this modifier. Lift this modifier out of the sentence, and what you have is a parallel structure with but far larger. Larger is an adjective. I scroll back looking for another adjective. I found it. There it is, unwelcome. This doesn't modify unwelcome. It parallels unwelcome. And both of them modify the swine. Right? Both of them modify the swine. Okay? All right. If you try and do this in 2 minutes, this can be done in 2 minutes, Sanchita. It just takes practice to get there. For what it's worth, the average time on right answers on GMAT Club is 1 minute and 41 seconds. So there are people out there who can do this on time. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, fam. I'm trying to say the swine is unwelcome, and it's larger. The problem is, you know, when you read it in B, there's generally agreement that the feral swine are unwelcome but larger. It's like, I'm not sure whether swine are larger than carp. We generally agree on that. Some holdouts say that carp are bigger. Also, some holdouts don't agree that pig are mounted on 4 legs and are more vicious and whatever. It's generally, most people would say pigs have 4 legs, but maybe not everyone. You know, the problem is that this is not something about which there's general agreement. This is something about which I assume there's total agreement, and that is a descriptor of pigs that parallels the fact that they're like the carp. I want this to parallel like the Asian carp, not parallel unwelcome. Okay. Yeah, there's general agreement that feral swine are unwelcome and bigger. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let's keep moving. I have so many more questions. I know I'm not getting to all of them. Let's see, hang on. Give me 1 second. Let me just check my question list and see which ones I absolutely can't live without, because I will have to make some tough choices here. Okay, I'm going to have to skip this next one. I do so love it, but we will move past it. All of these slides will be posted here. Just so you're aware, after the talk is over, we're going to edit the info on this to give you access to these slides you can download. So just check back within about, I don't know, an hour or two of this talk being over, and there should be a link to download all the slides, and you can go back and you can do all the questions that we didn't have a chance to cover in here. And you know, if there's a lot of them, maybe I'll come back and I'll do a part 2 in a couple months. All right, but here's the next question I am going to have you do. I'm going to clear this poll now. It is already open, so it's just cleared again. And I'm going to step off for 2 minutes so you can answer this question. Good luck. The poll link should be the same every time. You may just want to kind of copy and save it so you have access for the rest of the day. Poll link exactly the same as before. Maybe GMAT Club can repost that as well. All right, everyone, we just passed the 2-minute mark, so I'm excited to open up my poll and see how you did. Oh, there we go. Okay, took a minute to load on my phone, but I do see all of your responses. Thank you so much for your participation. I really, really appreciate it. Let me show the results here. Okay. There's the results. As of right now, as of this particular moment, that is exactly how you guys did on this. Whole bunch of B's, but also a lot of C's, A's, good number of D's, even a handful of E's. Okay? Oh, I wanted to take Fam's question because I didn't want anything to be unclear. Just to very quickly, so you're talking about this sentence, right? This sentence is not wrong, and maybe this was not clear. False parallelism can lead to frightening nonsense. I don't want to jump in a lake and see a giant vicious four-legged fish because that's frightening nonsense, right? There's nothing grammatically wrong with this sentence. This sentence is complaining about the fact that in the previous question, we had some frightening nonsense, all right? I am terrified of the giant fish. Poll closed. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It hits 25 and it freezes. You can't go any further. It's that's the limit. Okay, so once again, there is the poll. No, sorry, no error in that. Just making a snarky point in the slides. There's the results. Okay, so let's take a look. Now, one thing to notice here, did you notice they shifted the subject? The first personal computers, the severe hardware and software limitations of the first personal computers. The first personal computers, severe hardware and software limitations. The severe hardware and software limitations of the computers. In 2 of these, the subject is the computer, or computers. In 3 of them, it's the limitations. And this is important, because see, what a lot of people do is they focus on the underlined portion. Poll is full. I do not care about passive voice, Sanchita. I never want to speak of it again. Okay? Passive versus active voice is just not even a thing for me. Okay? I don't care. Frankly, they're all passive voice. None of these are doing anything, right? The computers had the limitations. Well, I guess that's active. You're right, that is active, but it doesn't matter, okay? I didn't even think about that. I don't care about it. You know what I care about? I care about this. I care about the whole sentence, and people tend to overlook meaning issues, especially when those meaning issues bear on something not underlined, because people are so hyper-focused on the underline that they never step back and look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture matters. You need to see the larger context. What is this sentence actually all about? What was unable to perform the complex operations? What is it that we're trying to talk about here? Lack tutor is dead on, you know? Lack tutor doesn't need a tutor. Lack tutor's like, I lack a tutor and it's okay because I'm nailing this. Yeah, it's the computers that were unable to perform the complex operations, not the limitations. So that's easy, that's quick. I can kill 3 answers right away, which actually means I just killed most of you guys because C, D, E combined got more than 50%. And then note that A says similar to that of. This is a singular pronoun. What exactly is that of referring to? Not limitations, surely, because limitations is plural. So that's just an agreement error. That's not a big fancy meaning error, anything all that interesting. I hoped you just would catch, the agreement of your pronoun being a problem in A. But the big meaning issue is C, D, E. And the thing about that is, yeah, the whole sentence matters, but also it can be remarkably quick if you just catch that one issue. If you just read the whole sentence and say, what is this saying to me? Rather than getting lost in all the other changes among C, D, and E, all the different ways to structure this grammar, I don't care. Whatever, man. I need to say that the computers are the things that couldn't perform the complex operations. You know? And at the end of the day, that only leaves me 2 answers, one of which has a very large grammar error. I'll pick the other, thank you. Again, here's the GMAT Club stats, 48% rate on GMAT Club, 75 percentile 700 level question. And you can kind of compare that to your stats and see, you were very similar to GMAT Club. You were actually a little behind them. A few more people picked A in here than should have. I'm sorry that you missed the that of Even when you're thinking about meaning, and meaning is super important, sometimes there are going to be multiple things going on. Sometimes you got a grammar issue. You do have to catch that as well. Does anyone have any questions here about this one, about why it's B? And I am sorry that happened, Nagarajan. Any questions? Any comments? Clear as day? Yeah, if only, man. If only A had that, it would basically be B, right? If only A said those of, it would be like the same answer, because similar to a modern wristwatch is similar to those of a modern wristwatch. They're equally good ways to describe the possession. It's just a matter of getting the agreement on it. But yeah, there's nothing else wrong with A. Okay, so let's move on quickly. I'm going to try to get to maybe two more. Okay, that way that'll be 5, and I think that's decent. I'm going to go a little longer than an hour. You guys all good to hang out for an hour and 15 minutes, something like that? You hang around for that long? Okay. All right. If you got to go, obviously you can duck out, and this will be available later online. But yeah, let's do this question. This is another official one. We're doing kind of a 50-50 of official and Veritas questions here. And yeah, this is a great one. So go ahead and give it a try. Alrighty, just hit 2 minutes. Poll results are coming in. Hasn't hit the max yet, so you still have a chance to get your answer in. But in a minute, I am going to flip over and show the results. So last chance to participate in the poll. Last chance. Would anyone else like to vote in the poll? Okay. All right. Let's see the results. There they are. Okay, the biggest consensus we've had so far goes towards C. It's exactly 50% right now. The nice even split between pretty much everything else but B. Let's see. Let's see how you did. Okay, so this question has lots of subtle changes at the start of the sentence. And what it really comes down to is that depending on how you set this up, you can accidentally create lots of ambiguity and ridiculous meanings. For instance, if you put the with here, you create a parallel structure that suggests that this company has two things. What are the two things this company has? Well, it has the patience of its customers, and it has its network strained to the breaking point. And I just want to say, given how strained their network is, I'm really glad that their customers' patience is with them. I'm really glad they have the patience of their customers, except, no, I don't think that's the idea here. I don't think they have the patience of their customers. I think the point is they don't. But by setting up this parallel structure the way they have, it doesn't seem to get the strain to the breaking point to apply to the patience of its customers, and it creates this really weird and illogical meaning, right? It's both things that are strained. How is it possible to answer in 30 seconds? Manisha, the poll is open even during the question, okay? I'm sorry, the poll is open as soon as I walk off screen. So you have the full 2 minutes while I'm sitting off screen to vote in the poll anytime you want. But when I walk back on, people have already voted, all right? So that's what seems to be happening here. We've hit 25 people because these numbers are all multiples of 4%, which means it's got to be 25 people. But yeah, just vote a little earlier, okay? You don't have to wait for me to walk back on and say, poll is closing. You can jump in sooner, okay? Anyway, I'm sorry that you're not getting to vote, but we still get to see good results here. So, A doesn't really make sense. I'm going to pass on B for the moment and C. D and E both say to try relieving, for one thing. D also repeats this with here. So this with is a problem because now, again, the company has two things. What are the two things? Well, it's got its network. With its network. Okay, well that's good. I'm glad they have their network. And with the patience of its customers strained to the breaking point. Wait a minute. Now it's supposed to be both things strained to the breaking point, right? This is fine, but it makes it sound like they have their network, and that's not logical, right? But also, both D and E do this other thing, where they say to try relieving. Now, relieving is a gerund, so it's a thing they're going to try. And that's different from try to relieve. To relieve is an infinitive, and an infinitive is often used to state purpose. Okay? Now, what's the difference there? Well, is it their purpose to relieve it, or is it just a thing they're going to do? B and C suggest that they're going to make an attempt to relieve the congestion in their network. They're not sure if they can. They want to. They're going to attempt to do so. That makes sense. E suggests this is simply something they're going to do. They're going to relieve the congestion, and they're going to try it implies that they never thought of this before. They never tried it before. Our customers are upset. What else should we do? Oh, I can't figure out what else to do. Well, why don't we try making the network run better? Maybe they'd like that. It's weird, right? It's not like we just never bothered to try making the network better, and we definitely can if we want to, but we're going to try it, see if that'll make our customers happy. It's that we'd like to make the network better. We're not sure if we can. We're going to take a crack at it and try to relieve the congestion. The infinitive works here. The gerund is actually pretty ridiculous. Does that make sense? Do you see why D and E are both a little bit strange in the to try relieving? It's their purpose. It's not something that they know they can achieve but just never tried doing before. Sorry, I know there's a little delay in the chat, but let me know if that makes sense. And in the meantime, yeah, good. In the meantime, I'm going to jump up to B and C. Now at this point, there is only one difference. And it's this. They've flopped the order of these two things. Everything else is the same, word for word, to the end of the sentence. The patience of its customers and its network. Its network and the patience of its customers. And this is where a lot of people essentially flip a coin. Initiatives and new are not redundant meaning? No, they're not. I'm fine with new initiatives. And look, redundance is style, so I would be cautious about being too heavy on redundancy. I would be much more interested in grammatical bases of meaning. Okay? This is the intersection of meaning and grammar, not meaning and style. You don't want to get into things that are style-based because those are inherently fuzzy. All right? You got to be very careful about making any decision that is a question of style, and I would just avoid doing it at all. There's also, that try to relieve versus to. Yeah, okay, you're right. I didn't notice that, but it actually, very good, Ankit. I just completely whiffed on that. It doesn't actually matter, though. All right? To try to relieve versus that try to relieve. I'm fine with that either way. Okay? Either way. Good catch, you guys. You're very right. You're very right. But I'm not going to make a decision there. I'm going to make my decision here. Okay? Because for each of these, I can read this in a logical way. Its network is strained. The patience of its customers is strained. And I could read this one. The patience of its customers is strained. Its network is strained. So what's the difference? The difference is there's another way to read B as well. And that is maybe those things are parallel. Right? See, one possibility is that the parallel elements are here. Its network, the patience of its customers. And maybe that's the case in B. The patience of its customers, its network. But then again, maybe it's not there. Maybe it's here. The patience of its customers and its network. And I'm just glad they have a patient network, you know, because if their network was more impatient, they'd be in really big trouble, you know? I think that would be a problem for me, actually. What do you think? And they flopped the two things in the list because by putting the prepositional phrase modifier on the second one, they create a clearer structure. There's no possible misreading here, like there is in B. And that's why C is ultimately the correct answer to this question. And this is the best you guys have done so far. I want to congratulate you. You guys got up over 50% right here, and kudos. Maybe you're starting to pick up on the logical meaning thing. This is still an 85% hard question, but B was ambiguous. Yeah, I still don't believe that try versus to try matters to me. But, you know, the real issue is the ambiguity. And the ambiguity in B is just about as bad as outright illogic, especially because it permits a truly illogical interpretation where the network is very patient. But the thing with ambiguity is that it's tricky because people tend to read the way that sounds right. Okay? Oh, your dad is awesome, Ira. Your dad should take the test for you. Yeah, absolutely. Or, well, for himself, he shouldn't cheat. Okay, I shouldn't tell you to cheat. But anyway, yeah, that's great. Good for your dad. Way to go, Ira's dad. You rock. Okay. So because our brains are so natural at hearing the logical way, it's easy to overlook illogic based on ambiguity. So if you find yourself come down to a couple answers and there's not much else to really look at, one of the things you may want to do is just ask yourself, is there any other way that this answer, either of these answers, could be read? You know, if there's nothing else to look at, there's almost nothing else to look at. So you're right, to try versus that try, whatever. I don't really care about that. I can't really make a decision. But I've only got this one other thing, and you just have to come down to it and say, well, if this is all I've got, what could be going on? And one thing that should be on your short list is it possible that one of these has an ambiguous meaning? Is it something that could be read in a different way? Fam asked me to explain the to try to relieve, sorry, it wasn't Fam. Who asked me about this? Oh, Anjali asked me to try relieving versus to try to relieve. So, to relieve is an infinitive, and infinitives often state purpose. So to try to relieve suggests that my purpose is to relieve the congestion. And I'm going to attempt to do that. I'm not sure whether I can relieve the congestion, but I'd like to relieve the congestion. And I believe that if I can relieve the congestion, my customers will be happy. Okay? But my real uncertainty is about whether I'm actually able to relieve the congestion. To try relieving is a gerund, it's a thing. It suggests that this thing that I'm going to try in an attempt to satisfy my customers is relieving the congestion. And the thing that I'm uncertain about is whether relieving the congestion will make my customers happy. I don't have any uncertainty about whether I'm capable of relieving the congestion. I'm going to try relieving the congestion. I just don't know whether that's what my customers want. Do you see the subtle difference in meaning there? Where to try relieving doesn't set up the right structure, and it suggests to me that I'm just not sure if my customers want me to relieve the congestion, whereas to try to relieve suggests that I'm just not sure whether I can relieve the congestion. It's my purpose, but I'm uncertain about my purpose. And that's the goal here, is to say, I'm not sure I can relieve the congestion, but I'm going to try to relieve the congestion. Okay, great. Let's get one more. One more, and this is just an absolute favorite of mine, so I'm going to skip a few of these, and they're great questions. By the way, just one thing to be aware of, number 7 in these slides, if you go back to it, is actually from the GMAT prep software, which means it is in the question bank for one of the practice tests, and it's possible you would see it there. So if you are trying not to spoil the practice tests and have not taken them yet and don't want to see a question from them, just skip number 7 if you ever go back to these slides, okay? I was going to give you a disclaimer, a warning on that if we did it in class, but since we're skipping it, I'm just going to let you know now. If you ever go back to these slides, you may just want to kind of skip past number 7 if you don't want to spoil those tests, okay? But here is the last question I'm going to do today. It is another personal favorite, and you're going to have 2 minutes for it. I'm about to clear off the poll so you can answer again. Hang on. Poll is clear. It is open. Answer anytime. Try to be one of the first 25 so your vote gets counted. I'll be back in 2 minutes. We are now over 2 minutes. I'm waiting for some more answers to trickle in. Hopefully you guys are going to get them in quickly. See if we can hit that 25 answer maximum again. We haven't hit it yet, but let's get them in. Anyone else? Hopefully you've all been able to vote. I'm going to close this now. I've given you a lot of time on this one. I know it's a challenging question. And I know some of you are going to be upset about the results. I know some of you are going to be really angry. You're going to be like, that's not fair, whatever. And I don't agree. But we just hit the 25 limit, I think. So let me show you what we got. There's the results. Whole lot of C's. Good chunk of D's. Got some A's in there. And an E or two. Like one E. Okay. So I just want to know how many of you guys are sitting there and getting steamed up about the such as versus like in this question. Okay, is versus are. Sure. Okay. A surprising number of airports. A number of airports are. So wrong. Okay. Which is why pretty much no one picked B. Okay. Natasha's like, yes, I'm all about the such as versus like, and I'm very upset. Now, I agree with you, Yash. Such as has to refer to examples. If you use such as, the things that you're describing must be examples of the class. The poll fills up, Manisha. It's been full for a while. I watched the answers come in. We get a total of 25 answers in the poll, and you know, there you go. But okay, such as has to refer to examples. But I frankly hate it. I hate it when people get into this such as versus like idiom and go to town on it and start telling me what the rules for like are and all of that stuff, because you're missing the point. The GMAT is not interested in that. The forest is something different and you're stuck on one funny shaped tree. Okay? So, if you want to know from the horse's mouth, just so you're aware of this, the New York Times is one of the world's leading authorities on American English grammar, okay? The New York Times basically makes the rules. They're one of the places that grammar is made. That, you know, they are thought leaders in this, and their style guide is very important to people, okay? In fact, the New York Times is so important that there's actually something called the Times Rule that is, you know, absolutely from them. So where is this going? Well, what does the New York Times say about like versus such as? This is a quote from their blog by the editorial desk of the New York Times. The editorial desk of the New York Times, their style editor writes a blog and says, occasionally readers object to the use of like as a preposition to mean including or as, for example, big companies like GE, etc. The objectors contend that like can only mean similar to. So strictly speaking, this is wrong. They would change the phrase to such as GE. Editors have long been divided on this point, but like is widely used and recognized in all dictionaries in the sense of as, for example. The Times Style Book accepts either phrase. Here's a link if you want to read that post yourself. So, if you're sitting there agonizing over like versus such as, stop it. Okay? Stop doing it. I know there's debate in the forums. I know some tutors will tell you something different. But I'm looking at the New York Times and saying, look, I'm not the authority, but I know who is. So stop. The GMAT will never, ever, ever have a wrong answer that is wrong because it used like when you were supposed to use such as. Now, it doesn't go both ways, because everyone agrees that such as has to be for examples. So if you say such as and it's not actually an example of the thing you're talking about, that's wrong. But if you use like, it can go either way. And the GMAT will never mark an answer wrong for using like in this way, or in any way. Really, either way is fine. So then what is this really about? Well, here's my question. Were you so busy fixating on that you missed the fact that the airports are easily reachable during long layovers and answers A, B, C, and E? When in doubt, don't make those decisions, Nagarajan. The point is not, when in doubt, choose like. The point is, when in doubt, think about something else in this sentence. I don't want to talk about like versus such as. It's not my bag, man. It's not something that I spend a lot of time thinking about in the GMAT, and I don't think you should either. I think you should be busy going, wait a minute, what's reachable during a long layover? Let's look at that again. There's a surprising number of airports that are adjacent to parks and that are reachable during long layovers. Really? I can make it to an airport during my layover? Well, that's great. I thought I was already in an airport during my layover, but I'm glad I can get there. No, there's exactly one airport that's reachable during your layover. It's the one you're in. That's kind of what a layover is. It's the only airport you can reach until your flight comes. Surprising number of airports that are adjacent to the parks and reachable. Adjacent and reachable are your parallel adjectives. They both refer to airports. There's a surprising number of airports that are adjacent and that are reachable. The airports are reachable during the long layovers. There's a surprising number of airports that are adjacent and reachable. We did it again. I don't care about like versus such as. I don't want the airport to be reachable during a layover. You know what I want to be reachable during a layover? How about a park? I'd love to have a park that I could get to on a layover. That makes logical sense. Sanchita, I'm saying, first of all, this, and second of all, stop doing it. My real big point is not that I want you to learn a new rule about like. My real big point is I want you to stop thinking about like. Okay? I hope that you just basically say, look, man, it's fine, whatever. I got bigger fish to fry. Screw the like versus such as. Screw it, forget it. It's beside the point. I want a park to be reachable during a layover. Sure, I could say which are easily reachable. That would be fine, because the which would refer to this, because it's a modifier structure. The problem with this is that every single other one of these answers uses a compound structure, uses an and. The and is the killer, because when you create that parallel parallels with something that refers to airports, which means that this also refers to airports. Idioms, kana, and style. What should you stop worrying about? Idioms and style. Okay? This is a test about meaning and grammar, not idioms and style. I also think some people worry a little too much about punctuation. I've heard this from the horse's mouth. I go to the GMAT meetings every year. The actual people who write the test. And one of the things they told us this year, and I knew this before, but it's nice to hear it reinforced. One of the things they said is that punctuation matters only insofar as it bears on grammar and meaning. Okay? And they're not interested in idioms qua idioms. Like versus such as should be the last thing in the world that I want to use. Right. Absolutely. I would say I'd almost look at anything before I'd look at like versus such as. I didn't even know for a long time. I didn't even know that some of these said like and some said such as. It never even crossed my mind to check. All right? That's the point. I didn't look at that. I wasn't aware until I got in the forums and everyone was arguing about like versus such as and calling this a shit question because it's using like wrong. You know? I was like, oh my god, you know, what the hell? I didn't even know it said like in there. I just, whatever. You know? So, do the logic, do the grammar, and the thing about this is, if you do all that, there's no reason you can't get this right. But if you're busy fixating on some little thing that's not important, well, then you end up in one of these other buckets, and that's kind of how our stats looked as well. Ultimately, it's not the airports I can get to during the layovers, and that kills every wrong answer, okay? And that's the big point today. It's that the logic here is underappreciated. People are so caught up with other things, so many things. Ira's dad is apparently the real star here. He's the real hero. Way to go, Ira's dad. But, you know, people get so fixated on other things. Grammar's great. I love grammar, don't get me wrong. But even grammar has to go together, hand in glove with logic. Your grammar is only good insofar as it produces a logic that makes sense, a meaning that you want. You make everything parallel because, I don't know, I just like parallelism. That's not good enough. You make it parallel because it's supposed to go together. And then there's all this other stuff out there. There's a couple of idiom questions that we kind of skipped over, which aren't really about the idiom, but that's the point, right? There's an idiom in there, but if you get hung up on it, you're missing the point. And all of that other stuff, ultimately, I don't want it. What I want is meaning, I want grammar, I want to never lose sight of the big picture understanding. And if you want a 700, that's how you get it. Learn to live at the intersection of meaning and grammar, and you will be better off. Okay, so let me take any final questions here. I'm already at an hour and 22 minutes, so I'm getting long. I know Arun has a question. Let me take Arun's question, and then anyone else who has questions, I'm happy to take them now, and then I will close it out, okay? How that in this sentence modifies airports. So again, let's talk about parallelism just a little bit, okay? And by the way, like like the Times said, some people disagree about the such as, editors have been divided, whatever. So again, the point is not learn the new rule about like versus such as. It's please stop. Just stop, okay? You do not need to be sitting here making these kinds of decisions when even the editors can't agree. So let's make some other decisions instead, all right? Now, how about the that? When I see this that, the key thing to look at is the and next to it. And is a conjunction. Conjunctions create parallel structure. When you have a parallel structure, what you should do is you should look at the element after the and you should read backwards until you see a matching element. So you read back from the that, and you get right here. And you say, well, that's another matching element. They're both relative pronouns. In fact, they're literally the same word in this case, but even at least they're both relative pronouns. And so they're parallel. And since they're parallel, this that modifies the same thing that modifies. There's a surprising number of airports in the US that are adjacent. This that refers to airports. So guess what that refers to? Also airports. The same is true here. And reachable. Reachable is an adjective. Find another adjective. Adjacent. Adjacent and reachable both modify that, which of course modifies airports. So basically they modify airports. Same thing here. And that. Find the other that. There's the parallel. They both refer to the same thing, which is airports. And reachable. Same thing. Modifies the same thing that adjacent modifies, which is airports. The only one that doesn't have that parallel is this one. This uses a modifier structure, and it modifies what it's next to, which is the parks and paths. Does that make sense, Arun? Oh, thank you, Nagarajan. Thank you, Kana, and Sanchita, and everyone else. Session on ellipses. Ellipses. That's a fairly narrow topic, Kriti. I'm not really sure. I've got an hour on ellipses. I will take a look, but I don't really know that I have enough to say about that. The questions you didn't mark correctly, I can't answer because it's adaptive. It's not just how many right or wrong answers, it's the difficulty level of the questions. So there's not a clear answer to that, Sanchita. It's more about you got to nail the stuff that's 550 level, 600 level, 650 level, and you got to start to see a lot of the 700 level questions and get at least some of them right. But focus has to be on absolutely dominating on everything below 700 so you can start to even get to the 700 level questions. That is a singular, so it modifies, wait, hang on, that are is plural. Airports that are, the are is plural. You said the confusion modifies single entity. Airports that are is plural. As a relative pronoun, that is both singular and plural. As a regular pronoun, that is singular, okay? So that's the difference. You're mixing up the relative pronoun that and the regular pronoun that. Where can you get more practice questions? Be here. There are 3 more in these slides that I didn't manage to do. These slides are going to be posted in the chat, in the conversation about this video shortly, okay? So watch for the link post to go up after this, and you will see 3 more questions in there that you can do. And if you guys like this, maybe I'll come back and do a part 2 later, because I can easily pull another half a dozen meaning questions like this and keep doing the same thing with you. So, maybe we'll come back and do it again sometime, all right? Thanks so much, everyone. I think that's all the questions. I hope I didn't miss anyone. Apologies if I did. How do I select questions? I will answer that and I'll get out of here. I choose hard questions that I have interesting things to say about. I choose things people are talking about in the forums. I like to do, obviously, Veritas questions and official questions. Oh, hey, the slide link. There you go. There's the slides for the webinar. So these were all official and or Veritas questions. They were all 700 level because I know you guys are all going to give me shit if they're too easy. And yeah, and I just went through and I looked and said, like, what are people talking about? What's interesting? What's controversial, debatable? And what do I have something to say about? What can I teach you something useful? So that's how I chose. All right, everyone. That's my time. I will see you guys again next time. Once again, I was Anthony. This was GMAT Club and Veritas. Check us all out online. Like it, subscribe to it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. Bye.